So take your printed pattern piece out and make sure that you've stuck the two pieces where indicated on the pattern. Pin to your fabric, that is right sides together, and cut around the outside. If, like me, you've placed your pattern piece on a fold, make sure you remember to cut the two pieces so that they are separate. Once you've cut all the way around, take the pins out but place them back in the fabric to keep the two sides together. This will stop the fabric slipping when you're sewing and make it easier to handle. So here you can see I'm cutting mine to make them two separate pieces. Once you've done this, you're going to want to move over to the sewing machine, and leaving the long straight side open, you're going to stitch all the way around the outside until you get back to the other straight side. The straight side needs to be left open so that you can turn it in the right way, and that's also where you will be placing the section of the cape in as well. When you get to the end, just snip off the last little bits of threads and make some little snips into the curves of the neck and around where you will fix it at the end as well. Just that way when you turn it in the right way, it's sitting nice and flat and it's unlikely to gather and bunch. So turn it back into the right way now and get something blunt and just poke it up in the top there so you can make sure it's all turned out where all the stitching is there. And then the next thing you're going to do is iron your piece flat. So moving to the iron now, giving it a good iron so it all sits nicely, which makes it much easier to work with once it's ironed down into the shape it's supposed to be, and ironing along the flat section. Then you're going to fold up a 1 centimetre inside itself where the opening is and pin it into place just to hold it there. So you can see me here starting at one end, placing the iron, and then slowly moving my way along to make sure that it's all folded up and in, so that then after this there'll be no loose edges once you have done your stitching. Set that aside and take your two pieces of fabric that measure 60 centimetres wide by 70 centimetres long, and I basically just pin them and give it a quick iron to make sure both pieces are sitting nice and flat together. Now, because I've chosen to reuse a piece of fabric, I'll also need to trim around the outsides. However, if you have not reused an old piece of fabric, you won't need to be doing this. And make sure you've placed both sides right side facing down or facing inwards together. You're going to sew around the three sides, leaving the top side open, and that's where you're going to turn it in the right way and create your pleats. So stitching all the way around the outside, you can see I've got my excess fabric down there, which I'll trim off later. And as you go, just remove any pins that come in your way. Make sure that they don't go under your needle. When you turn it in the right way, it's good to just snip the little corners, so that way the corners sit down nice and flat and you won't have to worry about them bunching as you sew. The other thing to keep in mind is when you're creating the pleats, making sure that the two top pieces of fabric meet at the same point, so that way when you put it inside the top piece to encase the pleats, you know that all the raw edges will be inside. So here what you can see is I need to trim off the excess fabric that I have. I left the selvage on so that way I knew I'd cut it off after I had sewn it. And I'm just going to quickly cut around the whole outside. Then turning it in the right way, just giving it a poke in the corners. I'm also going to go and iron my seams to make sure that they're sitting nice and flat. So just giving everything a quick iron, making sure it's going to sit nice and flat. Now the reason I chose calf fabric is my son is a bit too young for superheroes. However, he loves Lightning McQueen and he loves running fast like lightning. So I thought I'd make him a Lightning McQueen cape, so that way he can have his own special Lightning McQueen cape to run fast in. So to create the pleats, you're going to find the center point and you're going to pin 5 centimeters either side of that, and then 2.5 centimeters from that, 2.5 centimeters again, and then you're going to fold it under as you just saw. If you go to my website, dpkids.wordpress.com. You'll find the pattern to print as well as the instructions, and in the instructions there's a diagram for creating the pleats in case you can't pick it up from this video, because for some reason it might be a little bit harder to see. Also remember when watching this that I am actually just a beginner sewer. I make things up as I go along. So if you are a professional sewer and you're watching this thinking, what the heck is she doing? That's why. I have a machine that I love and I just sew simple things. So once you've created your pleats, pop it into the top section and pin it all in place so that you can remove any excess pins from down within the pleats. Turn it over once you've done that and just make sure you've got all the pieces of fabric encased, so that way you know that once you've sewn this on, your cape will be finished, you won't have to worry. Now I just like to go through and double check each side to make sure it's all enclosed, and just put straight pins going across, so that way as you're sewing you can easily remove them. So now you're going to sew twice, once over and then once back again, just to make sure it's nice and strong for your little superhero. And then once you've done that, you just need to sew some Velcro onto the top section, or a press stud or a button, whatever it is that you have chosen, and you have finished. So just sewing nice and slowly, removing any pins as you go, sewing it back again, and then you are done. So well done. Have fun flying. Bye.